Okay, let's see what chapter is this. All right. So let's today we are going to do two chapters, which is chapter 10 and chapter 11. All right, chapter 10 and chapter 11. We're going to talk about organizing for innovation. So we are going to understand, we are going to discuss how do you want to organize your innovation, your company's innovation within your company itself or your department. Right. So we start with a little story about Google. So started in 1998 by two Stanford students, and then they went on to create Google and so on. You can read on your own. But one thing very interesting about Google is each employee was given some time off of their daily work, and to take about 20% of their daily work to think of innovation projects on their own. Okay, their own innovation projects, which there's nothing to do with the company. It's their own innovation projects, 20% of their time, and they can propose this to the management for the management to see if it's viable, and then it will kick off. Okay, so that was how um, they promoted innovation in their organization. So the question arises here is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of the creative side of Google being run as a flexible and fat technocracy? Okay, how does Google culture influence the kind of employees can attract and retain? Okay, so if we were to study Google just as an entity, as per to say, we find out that they allow their employees to grow. That meaning to say, yes, they do have a structure in place. Okay, the structure is very clear, but they also allow their employees to move, to expand their knowledge, to expand their innovation as well. Why do I see the structure is in place? Yes, that means there is a boss, there is a CEO, there are departments, there are sub departments, and so on and so forth. It is not, well, it is not like certain organizations whereby it's just a full stop. Meaning, if you enter in the year, let's say you enter in the year 2000, the highest position that you can go in that division, in that department, is the boss, is the manager, is the senior manager. There is no possible way of you being transferred to a different department, no possible way of you being transferred a different division, because one, it's not your line of work. Two, it's maybe because of your qualification. Maybe you have an IT degree and the other departments are finance degree, marketing degree, marketing department, IT, purchasing department. So it's not your line of work, it's not your expertise. But what happens in Google is each employees are being asked to innovate something, and if their innovation works, those employees will not only be heading that project, but also be promoted to other divisions, other possibilities. So although the structure is there in Google, but overall the employees can grow according to their interests. So what are we looking at in this chapter? We are looking at how to organize innovation, how to promote innovation, how to say that, okay, are we going to look at innovations as a whole, as a total change, or are we going to let each department run by themselves and come up with their own innovation and then propose to the management? Or are we going to say, okay, let the management decide, and from here we will push it down. Uh, we will push it down to each department. Okay, there are two concepts. One is the bosses all sit down. Okay, kita akan decide. We will decide what is best for the company. We will buy this system. We will innovate this system. We will propose something, and we will push it down to all the departments. Okay, you can imagine, like, let's say Eon, the HQ Eon in KL, maybe they said, okay, all our systems are going to go in this direction. Okay, and then we push it down to all branches. Could be that way, Or we can tell our branches, okay, now you do what is best in your department, your state, and then if that works well, let's try and replicate that, or let's try and maybe enforce that, or let's try to work on that better so that everyone else can use that as well. Okay, so a firm size and structure will impact the rate of likelihood of innovation. So if your company is big or small, that will impact the rate of innovation. Some structures may foster creativity and experimentation. Maybe the structure is right, but others may enhance efficiency and coherence across the firm. That means some organization structure will actually enhance creativity, will allow people to experiment. But some structures are very fixed. They do not allow efficiency. It's not possible for you to grow in innovation. There is no possible way you can do experimentation. Okay, if you are working for, let's say, Mindin, for example, Mindin, okay, or Tesco, all right, there is no method of way for you to experiment because you are dealing with dollars and cents every day. Okay, it's difficult for you to say, okay, this system will work here. No, because everything comes from the HQ. Okay, so creativity is at a very low pace in this kind of in this organization. However, maybe if you are working for a manufacturing company, then you can say yes, they are we are allowed to do some creativity as long as we deliver the goods and services in time. So, is size better? Okay, so is it? Can we say the bigger the organization, the better, or the smaller the organization is it better? Okay, bigger means that if it's a big company, then it will foster more innovation rather than it's a small company. So this was proposed by an Austrian American economist, whereby he says that the bigger companies would do better in innovating because they have the funds, and they are able to get more funds, and then they are able to spread their funds across R&D. Whereby the small companies, yes, they have ideas, but sometimes it's difficult for them to do innovations because they are also small, they are also striving for business, so they have no time to do innovation. Yes, sometimes they might have, but innovation means that you stop all work and you just concentrate on something that you're building, and it might work, might not work. Okay, so that is innovation. That is you're creating something, but those things might work, might not work. So there's a big question. And if your company has only about, let's say, 20 people, it's difficult for you to actually employ someone, two, three people to do innovation simply because you have to still pay their salary, and it's a big risk because if their innovation does not work or does not kick off, or it's not the right innovation, so that's going to be a problem as well. Okay, small firms small firms are also considered to be more flexible and entrepreneurial. Yes, correct. um, yeah, because they are also small, yeah, they are more flexible, but they're not flexible in terms of innovation. You can consider like a local bakery that employs 10 people. Okay, because they only have 10 people, yes, they can be more flexible. They can extend their working time. They can they can come out of varieties of bread maybe, but that's only all because there are only 10 people, but they cannot fully work on R&D. Okay, if you look at large firms, yes, although we say that they are big, they can easily get um, funds to do R&D, but they are also, if you look at the first point here, they are also need to report to their managerial. That means they also need to report to their top bosses if something fails, if they spend something, if they spend more than what is necessary. And if you know, the larger the firm, the bureaucratic level is much more stronger, higher. And if they do not work, they are also committed with the current technology. That means you cannot say that you cannot, big firms cannot just stop. Okay, you want to create, let's say you're working for Motorola, for example. All right, so you're doing an R&D, but you also have to abide with the current technology. Because if you create something which is not up to the current technology in Malaysia, if you're working in Malaysia, then what's the whole point? Yes, you might have a good innovation, but it's not running here. It's not it's not applicable here in Malaysia. So it's also um, it's also difficult to see. All right. Although yes, if you compare to a small organization, yes, they can innovate, but they cannot fully they cannot fully employ the innovation idea. They cannot say, okay, we cannot say to employees, okay, you are given some time to come up with innovation ideas, because most small companies are always focused on dollars and cents. Okay, but they can be more entrepreneurial. They can have more entrepreneurial ideas. Okay, because they are in that line, and their market is small, but they can figure out a means or way of how to make their business much more successful. For example, if you're running like a bakery shop, you can come up with ideas like, okay, you provide QR code pay, you can provide food panda, grab food. Okay, these are some entrepreneurial uh, things that you can do with your bakery shop. But we're not saying that, in terms of R&D tak ada lah, in terms of big R&D, or cara-cara buat cake you experiment. No, you can't do that, because you are looking at dollars and cents. Okay, but in terms of being small, it's much more easier, because you can grow easily. Okay, your organization can grow easily as compared to the big ones. Okay, uh, so now big firms are thinking, okay, now we are so big, because if we come up with a big R&D department, we are not sure that the other departments will follow us. Okay, so this goes in line with what Steve Jobs pernah cakap dulu. Steve Jobs pernah cakap dulu, he said, Steve Jobs in Apple, he said, we do not bring Apple, dia kata Apple, we do not bring technology to people. We bring people to technology. Ah, okay, you understand that? Steve Jobs once said, he said in Apple, they do not bring technology to people. They bring people to technology. Okay? Because why does he say that is, you can create, you can do anything, you can do so many things in your organization, you can come with the best product, but if that is not going to solve the problem of the customer, then what's the whole point? So now they change it the other way around. They bring the customers into their, they go and look for customers with problems, and they try to help them. Okay, if you say, oh, your organization provides all of this, so many products, macam-macam product, but these are not applicable to your uh, your market. Okay, then there's no there's no point, because your market is not going to buy whatever you sell, even though you have the best of the best. So now you go back to the market and ask them, okay, what do you need? How do I solve your problem? How can you help me to solve your problem? So that's how big firms are looking at the moment. Okay, so there is a story on the Xerox copy machine, and Icaros, okay, Icaros paradox. Icaros ni dalam Greek methodology ni, myth ni, Icaros ni it's a type of it's a burung lah. No, a person yang ada sayap burung lah. Okay, so Icarus ni is very strong lah. Okay, Icarus ni very strong, and he can fly high tau. He can fly high. So he will always go up and fly high every day, and everyone in the Greek people will all bangga dengan dia. Tapi the more higher he flew, he got closer to the sun. And when he got closer to the sun actually burned his sayap lah. Okay, when he burned the sayap, and he eventually died lah. Okay, so what they're trying to do, they're trying to bring this story back to the business environment. Dia kata, whatever that makes you at the top, whatever product that makes you at the top, whatever innovation that you do, that same thing will also bring your company down. Okay, whatever product or equipment that your company produces or uses will actually bring you down as well. Okay, in this example, they use Xerox lah, because Xerox at one time was one of the best photo companies machines in the world, but there was so much in the top. This was in the 60s. There was so much at the highest peak of the industry, they forgot that there were cheaper machines coming out from Japan. So when that came out, it beat them flat and Xerox totally died. Okay, sama juga macam Nokia, sama juga macam Kodak. Okay, Kodak was very at one point very top in film industry, film producing industry. However, there was so much at the top they forgot to look down, or they forgot to look at other venues as well. So when digital cameras came out, they couldn't handle it and they died. So what this analogy says is, whatever brings you up will be the same product that will bring you down as well. So that is why we need to innovate. And if we look at other examples, we look at Tesco, for example. Tesco comes from the UK. Okay, Tesco is doing very well in the UK lah. Okay, it's doing well. But when Tesco moved to try to open up in US in about 2007, they failed badly because they did not expect, because people in US are going online, and they did not provide online services in US Tesco in the year 2007. And then they misjudged the buying habits there. But Tesco ni dia hypermarket kan. So people in the Europe and Asia macam kita ni, we like to go to hypermarket and we like to stock. We like to buy bagai tiada lagi esok kan. Kita akan beli dan insyaAllah kita akan beli lagi kan. I'm sure most of you do this. We will tend to buy, even though once a month only we tell ourselves, yes, once a month ni kita akan pergi hypermarket. Tapi insyaAllah hari-hari lain pun kita akan pergi jugalah. Alright. So in buying habits in the US, they do not like to buy bulk. They like to buy at a different pace. They like to buy sikit. Okay, and they don't mind frequent going to the Tesco, or they don't mind frequent going to the supermarket lah. All right, so that was one another problem. And as you can see here, that most shoppers in the US, most shoppers only buy groceries once a week, and when they buy it once a week, they buy at a very small amount. Okay, although in Europe countries and Asia, we like to go setiap kali kita begini, we buy in bulks. Once a week tu or once a month tu kita belilah banyak lah, and then once a week pun insyaAllah kita akan pergi lagi. So that was a failure lah. So Tesco thought they are already doing well, but not knowing that same product to brought them down. So that is one reason lah. Okay, that was one example. Okay, next we look at Laura Ashley. Has anyone heard about Laura Ashley? Pernah tak dengar? Ni barangan perempuan ni. Rashika ke Ira pernah dengar tak? Have you all heard? Pernah dengar? Hello. Fazrin pernah dengar Laura Ashley?
Tak pernah dengar, doktor.
Rashika pernah dengar tak? Oh, siapa lagi tu? Ira pernah dengar tak Laura Ashley?
Tak pernah, doktor.
Okay.
Tak pernah, doktor.
Tak pernah? Okay, Laura Ashley ni it's a ladies brand lah, Okay, so it comes from UK lah. So it's very popular at one point of time. Di KLCC pun ada dia punya outlet semua. I think it closed down somewhere in probably early, maybe about 2010, 13 gitulah, 2013, 12 gitulah. Okay, one main reason why they closed down is because old fashioned. Because Laura Ashley ni, the person Laura Ashley ni, promoted her business not for profit but to protect British values. So dia bawa British values lah. So at one point of time it was doing well. Okay, so baju-baju dia ke arah British, and dia punya perfume and everything was doing well. But over time, fashion changed. but her fashion did not change. So again, at one point of time, Laura Ashley was one of the top brand producers in the world, but that same thing brought her down and terus tutup. Okay, and most of the outlets around the world now is closed down, and I think closing down some more. Okay, because as time goes by, women they like something more practical lah, baju-baju mungkin ke apa, so they will go. Diorang dah tak pakai version Laura Ashley dah. Okay, so that is how a product lah yang quite famous juga. Okay, so some organizations they go for different types of structure in their organization. Okay, some go for formalization macam McDonald's, very formalized, ada birokrasi dia. That means each job description is very clear. Okay, you buat apa, you buat apa, you apa. Masuk dalam, even if you go inside the outlets, okay, yang counter yang goreng fries ni, yang kerja belakang ni. And you can see them based on their types of baju kan. Kalau baju hitam ni you buat apa, baju ni you buat apa, baju ni you buat apa. Okay, baju hitam tak boleh datang ke depan untuk jaga counter. No, it's not possible. Semua dah clear. That's very formal. Or you can go for standardization, macam the degree to which activities are performed in a uniform manner. Everyone does almost the same thing. Macam Coca-Cola, okay, uses global standardization, tapi they do it. Their standards are global, but they orang pecahkan according to countries lah. That means they everyone will sell the same thing, but in different locations sometimes. Okay, jatuh. Okay, all right, in different locations sometimes. Okay, and then you will have different flavors. Okay, standardization to sama, but in different locations. Okay, that means they don't have to produce Coca-Cola in one main factory in one part of the world. They can produce Coca-Cola di Malaysia, they can produce Coca-Cola di Vietnam, Indonesia, and it's only for home consumption ke dia boleh maybe kalau nak import pun to a few countries only. Okay, and then they can come up with their own products if they want to. So that is standardization. Kalau centralization, yes, centralization is macam Apple, whereby it has to go to a central management structure. Okay, even though everyone has the opportunity to create or to devise their own, but everything has to get approval from the CEO. So the CEO makes a final call. That is centralization. Even though they have companies around the world or maybe around divisions, but whenever they need to make decision, it comes back to centralization, which is the CEO. So there are three types of dimensions that companies will follow: either formalization, standardization, or centralization. Formalization can also mean macam universiti lah. Pensyarah buat apa, non-academic staff buat apa, pendaftar buat apa, pendahari buat apa, pembantu am buat apa, apa tu, pegawai sains buat apa. Very formalized, very birokrasi. Okay, everyone has to follow that. This is your KPI. This is your JD, job description. Everyone has to follow. At the year end, you'll be analyzed. You'll be given marks based on this. Okay, based on this. Anything more you were given, yes, you can go to more, tapi you have to complete your JD first, your job description. That is very formalized. So one of them is government officers lah. Okay, so formalization is like that, and then you have centralization, and you have standardization first, and then you have centralization. Okay, so based on this, now you have two kinds of R&D innovation structure. One is this. That means you put all your R&D into one centralized division. Okay, centralized. Everyone works there, and if it works, we will disseminate to others. Tetapi in order for this centralization R&D to work, it needs representative from each division. Finance akan hantar seorang, purchasing akan hantar seorang, other departments akan hantar seorang. Masuk dalam team R&D, they will think of ideas, they will develop the ideas, then they will disseminate those ideas. Why do organization use this concept is because sometimes they need expertise from that particular division. They need expertise from this particular division. If let's say Apple was to come up with a product, they need to find out how much is that product, how much can it sell, what is the ROI. So they need expertise from other departments as well. So when we say innovation, it does not mainly mean you need someone who's good in programming or you need someone who's good in designing. Tak sebenarnya. You can have someone who is good in projection, finance, accounting, marketing. Okay, because sometimes you have a product good, but you don't know how to market them. You don't know how to sell them. You are unsure for the price, so you need these kind of people. So that is why in the centralization R&D, the central R&D is kept in one main location. As compared to decentralization, you decentralize everything. Meaning each division they will have their own R&D team, which is good, yes, which is good. But the problem is it's tailored to that division. It's tailored to that mind only. Let's say Hafiz is in one division, Arash is another division. Both of them work on innovations. Both of them work within their group and come up with good innovation. Okay, but that innovation might only be applicable there. Or yes, it can be applied to other divisions, tapi it has to go through another process lah. It has to be checked by other division. Is it applicable ke tak? Is there anything kurang ke? Is there anything more, less? Okay, so it's double job. Yes, you can get the best ideas because it's coming from a particular division, but again and again, that idea, that innovation might not work or might work with major changes in other divisions as well. Okay, so sometimes it's good to have decentralization, and sometimes it has its advantages if you have decentralization. Because if you have decentralization R&D, then people might forget that let's say, for example, let's say Aeon, they give allowances for each state to come up with their own R&D. So when they come out with that particular R&D, it might be applicable to that Eon only. It might be applicable to that kind of people only. Okay, because Eon is also based on purchasing power. Okay, kalau you perasan, ion di Perak berbeza dengan ion di Kedah, berbeza dengan ion di KL, berbeza dengan ion di Damansara. Because each of these ions are based on customer. Yes, although supermarket tu samalah, they sell the same product. Tapi if you go to the department shopping tu, baju tu orang berbeza. They will know what to put there based on purchasing power orang Ipoh macam mana, based on purchasing power orang Melaka macam mana. So if these people were to come up with their own innovation, then it's based on that lah. Idea itu berdasarkan itu saja. Okay, it cannot be applied somewhere else. Okay, it cannot be applied. So some things can be applied, some things cannot be applied. Some things are good to be decentralized, some things are not good to be decentralized as well. Are you with me? Hello, hello.
Ya, Doktor.
Yes,
Okay.
Doktor.
Semua macam sedih je di sana. You have any questions so far nak tanya saya? Okay. Alright. So let's go for another example. Okay, another example comes from 3M. You know lah 3M kan, tahu kan 3M tu. Ada yang cakap 3M ni buat tinted, glass. Okay, so 3M ada yang cakap buat tapes. So 3M has diversified its business to macam-macam. Okay, it can do tinted, it can do glass windows for cars, for houses, for buildings. So it can also do tapes, sulfan tape and all those things lah, yang high end lah. Okay, so they had both. R&Ds. They had decentralization and a centralization. Okay, so they started like that. So these are the people, Leo, Jake, and Desi yang bekerja dalam 3M, which brought 3M to where it is now. So what they did was in 3M, they did two kinds of R&D, which is decentralized and centralized. Meaning, the centralized R&D will work with whatever the decentralized departments will give. So let's say there's an innovation from Arash. So Arash dah buat dalam department dia, dah berjaya, so he push it to HQ, the central. So HQ will work on it, tambah tolak kurang banyak patut. If it's good, disseminate to other divisions. So that is what what do you say 3M was doing. Next, we move it into the structure itself. Okay, structure of the exact, what do you say, exact firm. Okay, some when we talk about formalization means banyak birokrasi. Then we're going to mechanistic. Everyone is mechanics kat situ. Contohnya macam universiti lah. You have to do this, government organisation, you have to do this. Kerja you ialah A, B, C, D. Kerja orang lain is D, E, F, G. Macam tu. Okay? So, when you are in a mechanics formalization, your innovation is quite low because you are very mechanical. You fikir macam tu je. Okay? But in terms of operationalization, you are very good. That means dari segi operasian, done. Okay? Day-to-day job, everyone gets something, everyone is being processed, everyone gets everything done. Okay? But in terms of variation, creativity, I say low lah. Okay? Let's take if you go for JP, kalau you pergi buat license, JPJ. Okay? Dari segi pengoperasian, cantik. Masuk, keluar, masuk, customer masuk, ambil gambar, ambil sistem, ambil ni, pop, keluar. Day-to-day operational. Very good. Okay? Day-to-day operational. But dari segi creativity, a bit low lah because they have to do only that. Sebab they are very formalized. Ini masuk, ini kena buat, ini kena keluar. That's it. Alright? Mechanics. But if you're looking at something which are low for low for formalization, contohnya macam Google, then ikut done je. Because saya kata ikut done je, then you will enhance creativity. Creativity itu will be enhanced. So that is going in Google. Google, low formalization, bureaucracy dia very low. So when you have low bureaucracy, you are giving people the opportunity to be very much more innovative. Okay, so sometimes size and structure can be different. Okay, so we need to exploit this. That's why there's a word called ambidextrous. That means you get the best of the both worlds. That means you get the best size and you get the best structure. So you can be a big size tu besar, structure you tak ada sangat. That means you're not formalized, but your structure is very good. Then you can exploit everything as well. Meaning places like Google, places like Apple, okay, they are big, but they also allow organizations to they allow their employees to go to be innovative. Okay, so they're trying to exploit and explore what is the best possible way for to promote innovations. And then we can also say if we are going for loosely coupled. Okay, loosely coupled ni macam not much of formalized, not much of centralized, not much of standards. Okay, but it's very loose. Okay, contohnya kat sini semalam saya fikir-fikir apa contoh yang paling sesuai. Kalau kita ambil kedai nasi ganda lah. Okay, so nasi ganda, the local nasi ganda shop opens in a new location in a nearby town, but doesn't apply the rules for how to make each of its curry. The organization then becomes loosely coupled. Okay, let's say dia Kasim Mustafa or Pelita dibuka lagi satu dekat Jasin for example. But if they do not put some rules on how to create the kuah kat situ, then loosely lah. That's why you can say macam kalau you pergi makan dekat Pelita KL, pergi makan kat Pelita Melaka, pergi makan kat Pelita Jasin, each of it will have different things. Walaupun they come under the payung of Pelita, tapi it will be very loose lah. You pergi makan dekat Pelita Melaka, you kata, oh roti canai dia sedap, kuah dia very nice. But you pergi makan dekat Jasin, alah kuah dia tak sedap. Maggi goreng dia sedap pula. Okay, so there's very loose kat situ. Okay, so when you have loosely coupled, yes, you have your innovations in practice, but there won't be any standardization. That means each of you come from the same company, but dari segi standardization tak ada lah. Okay, standardization tu ada, but formal rules tu tak ada lah. That means everyone ikut dan je lah. Okay, it's just Coca-Cola like Coca-Cola macam tu lah. Tapi Coca-Cola ada standardization, this is much more free lah, loosely coupled. Okay, kat situ. Alright. So we have a loosely coupled situation here. Saya ambil contoh daripada Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Okay, so this is the picture of the aeroplane. So what it did was they went for very loosely coupled system, whereby every parts of the aeroplane were given to subsidiaries or will be outsourced lah. And then bila semua parts kat luar tu dah siap, will be passed back to HQ. HQ will do final assemble. So the dramatic increase in outsourcing helped to spread the risk of development, contain costs, and facilitate foreign sales. Okay, that means they spread the cost around lah. That means okay, sales department ada company lain buat. Kalau macam development cost, yang ni buat facilitate. But on the other hand, although lain-lain tempat buat and then pasang di satu tempat, that led to more complexity and led to several delays. Because let's say hari ni I'm supposed to receive parts untuk buat kapal terbang from part A, B, C, D. A daripada Melaka, B daripada KL, C daripada Perak, D daripada Kelantan. Let's say there was a delay in transport. So when it's a delay, the central department tu tak boleh jalan lah, because they are waiting for all these parts to come. So in a loosely coupled situation, the biggest disadvantage is there'll be a lot of delays in coordinating your work job. Because yes, you kata you're loosely coupled, that means you break down everything. But if one division does not perform, then automatically it will affect the other divisions as well. Okay, let's say you're now working for Proton. Proton uses, let's say it uses this concept called loosely coupled production. That means tayar orang lain, body orang lain, engine comes from there. Cuma pemasangan sahaja di di kilang ni lah, Tanjung Halim. But if each of these company yang supply barang ni are late, then production will be very late lah. And in a loosely coupled situation, quality is questionable. How do you make sure there is there is high quality standard? How do you make sure? So, okay, if you want to, like KFC, standardization ni tinggi because they want everyone to feel the same. You makan KFC di Kedah Utara, Melaka, Johor, it's the same. Okay, sebab standardization is very high. Kalau you makan pelita di Kedah, berbeza dengan pelita di Pahang, berbeza dengan pelita, sebab dia punya standardization is very low, very loose, and it's difficult to replicate the same core, the same curry. Okay, so in loosely coupled organization, production is difficult for you to maintain the standard. If you can maintain the standard, there's also be other problems such as delays, such as cost. Because if one division increases the cost, then the overall cost will also increase as well. Okay, so these are some topics, some issues. How do you manage across border? Okay, because you want to manage your innovation across the department. How do you do that? How do you say to each department, okay, you boleh innovate, tapi you are only limited to do this. So you have to think about things like this. Okay, so these are some of the issues that you can read yourself. Okay, all right. Any questions so far?
Doktor,
Yes,
macam saya nak tanya
Arash.
Kalau macam innovation punya daripada segi mentality, macam mana kita nak terapkan innovation tu kepada satu organisasi yang kecil, contoh macam bahagian suburban lah, macam kawasan kampung. Sebab biasanya kawasan kampung ni dia punya mentality, kalau kita macam nak bagi dia innovate, dia susah nak pada perubahan, betul tak Doktor?
Betul, I agree with you 100%. Ini berbalik pada satu video, saya rasa you boleh tengok dalam Facebook atau dalam Facebook. There was a Prof Madya di Sarawak. Dia kata, kita yang terror-terror ni, kita yang hebat-hebat ni, we come up with macam-macam idea and we go to orang kampung and we give them and kita tanya dia, berapa sales dia orang, kita tanya dia orang, what is your expenditure income. We use high level language to them. Tanya, what is your expenditure, what is your medical expenses, benda-benda yang tinggi untuk dia orang. But and we give them solutions untuk problem dia orang yang high level. Probably what we can, dia kata the best way would be macam yang Steve Jobs tadi lah. Tanya dia orang, how would they want it to be? Contohnya kalau Aras ingat a few months ago, maybe tahun lepas ke apa, kerajaan, I don't know kerajaan manalah yang bagi money, duit dalam bentuk e-wallet. Ingat tak? I can't remember kerajaan manalah, kerajaan sekarang ke dulu ke, tak tahu mana satu. Dia bagi e-wallet. So saya ni duduk di UiTM Tapah dekat dengan kawasan kampung. So ramai orang-orang kampung kata they got $50, tapi kedai-kedai kat kampung tak accept pun touch and go. Tak accept pun. Tak accept pun touch and go. Kalau nak accept, kena pergi pekan lah. So macam tak valid. Tak valid benda tu. So the best thing is macam mana nak terapkan. Kita, my suggestion is you have to go back and we cannot tell them, okay, inovasi ni ialah seperti ini. They will not understand. Mereka tak akan faham lah. Okay, maybe what you can do is you can ask them how to minimize their work. Contohnya, untuk buat satu kerja, it takes about 10 steps. 10 langkah-langkahnya. Okay. Contohnya macam ni lah. Saya tanya Pak Mentua saya, kalau nak bayar bil tu macam mana Abah? Abah kena daripada A to Z Abah kena cari bil dulu, Mama akan simpan bil kat sini, lepas tu Abah kena drive kereta, pergi post office, Abah kena ambil ala post ni, lain kali buatlah macam ni sikit. Then you see, you can get that ideas. Maybe based on that is where innovation happens. You can ask them how to shorten the process. Sebab if you remember, proses itu pun satu innovation. It does not need to be a product. So I think that is the best way we can ask them, because they want problems to be solved. Macam ni buat, dia tak kira dah. They want problem to be solved. Dia orang nak air masuk kampung. Dia orang nak jalan masuk kampung. Dia orang nak internet. Dia orang nak internet lah. Maybe dia orang nak so daripada kita fikir untuk dia orang, which sometimes tak masuk akal pun, selalunya tak lah kan. I mean, I'm sure you all agree with me. Kadang-kadang ni kita yang hebat-hebat ni, yang ada degree, yang ada PhD, yang 10 years experience, so we think we know everything. Tapi kita balik, rupanya satu benda pun kita tak tahu. So their lifestyle itu berbeza. So I think the best innovation Arash you can give them is to ask them how can they shorten a process, how can they macam help. Kalau diorang diberi peluang untuk selesaikan satu masalah, what would they do? Maybe that is the best way of promoting innovation lah.
Okay, betul.
Sebab kadang-kadang saya rasa macam yang e-wallet tu is such a waste. You are giving e-wallet to a person who wants, okay lah, kita boleh katakan Pak Mentua saya nak guna, tapi tak ada tempat nak guna. Kan, I mean, adalah 2-3 orang yang nak guna, but there's no way else. I mean, there's no other way, other means of using it. Okay. Any more questions, suggestions, ideas sebelum we take a break for about 10 minutes and then we continue back? Okay, tak ada? Okay, let's stop for a short break. Hafiz ada soalan ke?
Tak soalan, cuma saya nak tambah sikit Raj
Oh,
punya
yeah, go ahead.
soalan ni. Kalau ikutkan sebenarnya kita pun dah masuk millennium 2000 kan, millennium kita banyak buat more to digital era kan. So I think benda ni semua golongan termasuk golongan yang lebih tua pun dia dah kena alert lah kan. Dan sekarang tengok contoh lain kan, seperti Tashengo kan, sekarang semua dah guna Tashengo kan, dia tak guna pun bayar cash kan.
Yeah.
So bagi saya sebenarnya dia macam mana government ataupun pihak berkuasa tu dia educate golongan-golongan macam ni kan. Dia bukan mudah lah, mungkin ambil masa. So cara educate golongan-golongan macam ni dia kena slowly, dia tak boleh secara mendadak.
Betul. Yes.
Betul, setuju Pis.
Yes.
Pihak berkuasa, it means pihak berkuasa dan pihak-pihak yang macam majlis kebenaran tu,
Yes.
sepatutnya memikul tanggungjawab pasal innovation ni.
And one more thing is bila you what you say you nak sampaikan idea ni, it has to be berterusan lah. That means maybe kita tak expect ada orang macam every week buat program kan. Kita expect macam a few months sekali buat something, so that people are aware, macam educate them sikit, bukannya one shot. Okay, hari ni datang, okay, buat promosi besar-besaran, inilah dia Touch and Go, inilah dia e-wallet, cara-cara guna. Dah cukup seminggu, 2 minggu, thank you very much. Lepas tu tak ada dah. It has to be continuous lah.
Consistency tu.
Consistency, yes. Dia kalau you buat sikit-sikit, and then lama tu, then you'll see you will see the effect lah, betul lah tu. Correct.
Okay.
Alright, thank you so much Hafiz and Arash. InsyaAllah we will stop for a short break now. And we will continue back at 10:05. 10:05. Alright. So jumpa lagi at 10:05. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.